The Championship is stupid. And as a person that supports a certain team, and maybe a bit biased. As we are coming towards the end of the season, many people's attentions are pointed towards the Premier League, and to be fair, this time round has got some valid reasons, as of course the title race of Arsenal, City and Liverpool is heating up. The issue is that every single person talks about it, and even a relegation battle this time may actually also go down to the final day potentially, as Brentford, Everton, Forest, Luton, maybe Burnley could be fighting it out to try to stay up. However, I want to point my attention to the greatest and most ridiculous league in world football, the Cambodian second division. No, it's Championship. As of today, on the 1st of April, on Easter Monday, despite there being 24 teams and 12 games in one day, there will be not a single game that has not got something huge on the line. In every single game, it features a team that is at least 5 points between them being promoted or relegated. And to have it being that close of only 5 points while having 7 games left in a 46 game season is incredible. And it adds more to the reason why I believe the Championship is the greatest league in the world. So many stories in the Championship alone. One of them is of course being Leicester City, who despite being I believe 17 points clear by around New Year's Day are now currently third in the Championship. If they do not go up, then it may be the biggest collapse I think in potential English football history. But I want to go into some of the most remarkable stories in Championship history just to add to it. Comment down below your favourite and more stupid Championship stories. Like the video, subscribe, and Mazzella Designs for the best football prints covering every single club in the EFL and Premier League. Code EFL for 15% off. How about Blackburn Rovers? Yeah, this is a bit awkward. Blackburn Rovers last season in January tried to sign a player called Ethan Brierley from Rochdale, and indeed failed to sign him, not because he had no money, but because they didn't notify that he was white. When the youngster signed his form to join the club, he didn't tick the box of saying that he was white and British, so without any checks by Blackburn, this form was not valid, and therefore he didn't get signed in time on deadline day. Neil Warnock. Neil Warnock embodies a Championship, or just really English football in general, and I don't really think words for myself gives him any credit, so here's some clips from him.
Now, after what we've been through in the last couple of years here, I can't see anybody being overawed. I mean, I think we've just got to go out, by all means enjoy it, but enjoy it by being fucking disciplined here.
What bugs me is Arsene talks about Danny Cullen deliberately stamping on Fabregas, but he never mentions that Fabregas nearly broke Monty's leg. And he doesn't say out about a fantastic goal that we scored, that nothing was wrong at all, only that the referee was under so much pressure, having sent Bergkamp off. He had to think of something to disallow it. Makes me laugh.
Get pissed if you want, go out to nightclubs, anything you fucking like, because you were a fucking disgrace at Plymouth, weren't you? So do everything what you don't want to do. All right, take your missus out, tag her on, fucking car seat, anything you want. That's magnificent, lads, that.
When people think of England as a country, just not even on about football, as a country, your first thought should be Neil Warnock. What about Nottingham Forest? I know they're in Prem now, but this was back when they were in Championship for about 2 decades. Nottingham Forest had an owner, which I'm sure they would not want me to say, called Faraz Al-Hassawi. Definitely butchered that. He allegedly, for legal reasons, allegedly stole the 1959 FA Cup trophy after he sold the club for £1. He was taken to court by the club to give back the trophy, and after promising to give the trophy back, he never has, and says that the FA Cup trophy that he does have in his possession is actually a replica he bought for £23,000. Nottingham Forest still are missing their 1959 FA Cup trophy to this day. Speaking of clubs that's no longer in the league, Aston Villa. Well, we all know the second city derby, where of course Birmingham City played against Aston Villa, and it was a completely normal game and nothing happened. Oh yeah, there was one thing. Jack Grealish got attacked. Of course, they're rivals, and it's normal to completely just run on the pitch and attack one of their players. The best part about this, the fact that Grealish is Villa's best player at the time period, and of course was a local boy, and went on to score the winner in that same game and won 1-0. Leeds United, I could probably mention 15 things on top of my head about what Leeds have done that is absolutely stupid, but let's just go with at least 3. Let's start with Augustin. Of course, when he first joined Leeds, they were in the Championship and was signed from RB Leipzig on loan with an obligation to buy of £18 million. There was one key issue. He wasn't good, and he only played 48 minutes in that entire season. So Leeds tried to sell him on. Turned out that they breached his contract of the player and now has to pay up to £14 million altogether for a player that played 48 minutes of football. Peak Leeds. I can't go into this without also mentioning Spygate. During the Bielsa era at Leeds United, there was a bit of conspiracies going on, and one was very controversial, where there was actually spies set to go and seek out the Derby County training ground to basically try to see their tactics and kind of the style they want to play. The best part is that this wasn't only Derby County, it got caught at Derby County, but then came out that Bielsa actually spied on every single team that season. He had people spying on every single team and watched the training sessions of all of their opponents, stating that he doesn't believe it was right, but he didn't break any rules. And the best part is, this wasn't even noticed till halfway through the season. The most incredible part is that Derby County was the ones to actually send them out of the playoffs in the semi-finals in that remarkable game between Leeds and Derby, which that game alone is also another stupid moment. Frank Lampard got the better of Marcelo Bielsa. And you know what? I could even mention a Leeds v Aston Villa game where Bielsa demanded his players let Aston Villa score because they went on and scored when the player was down on the pitch. Man, I miss Bielsa. How about QPR? Well, here's a man called Gareth Ainsworth. Now, Gareth Ainsworth is an interesting bloke, and when he first joined QPR last season, his way to get the team together was, usual methods of, getting a lad to go drink together and maybe boost up the cohesion. Actually, no, that's a lie. I made that up. They did the hacker. Reading. I may go into every single club here because there's too many stupid stories. Reading back in 2013-14 played Burnley in the final day. How you doing, boys? And it was a 2-2 draw. Great game of football and a beautiful sunny day down in the south. Burnley were already promoted in second place. However, Reading was still fighting for the playoffs, and after a draw, they thought that they still had enough to get into the playoffs. So at the final whistle, about a third of the stadium all ran onto the pitch for a pitch invasion, thinking that they got into the playoffs. Turns out they didn't. The problem was that they were fighting with the likes of Brighton and Hove Albion. I was playing away that same day against Nottingham Forest. And on the final day, Brighton were drawing 1-1 until the 92nd minute where Alua, I can never say his name, but this guy scored in the 92nd minute to go and win the game. So Reading fans prematurely thought that they got into playoffs. Well, they didn't, and this was the response. It's really remarkable to see. Swansea. Speaking of the playoffs, one of the most remarkable final days in Championship history happened only 3-4 years ago. Nottingham Forest and Swansea City. Now, those two didn't play against each other. However, this was the scene on the final day. Forest had a 3-point lead to Swansea and a 5-goal cushion. They had a 5-goal advantage on goal difference. And they had 3 points. They simply had to just not lose dramatically, and they're in the playoffs. Easy. Happy. Nottingham Forest plays Stoke City at home, who, by the way, have been quite poor for the vast majority of the season. One issue. They turned into Barcelona in this one particular game. They went on to lose that game at home 4-1 to Stoke City. But it wasn't that bad because Swansea, they had Reading away. Swansea won 4-1. This was the bottle job to end all bottle jobs, other than maybe Leicester City right now. And from this moment, I was convinced that Nottingham Forest were going to be staying in the Championship for the rest of their life. Huddersfield Town may be a bit annoyed at that though. Of course, in the playoff final between Huddersfield Town and Nottingham Forest, not just once, but twice in that game, where Huddersfield Town denied two, I would say, quite fair appeals for penalty. And what made it worse was that after the final and Forest won and got promoted to Premier League, Steve Cook, a Forest player in the victory parade, said, "Well, thank John Moss today. What a guy. We love VAR up the tricky trees."
You never know what's going to happen. We'll thank John Moss today. What a f***ing guy. We love VAR. We love it. We love it. Up the tricky tree.
So each time, obviously, Forest has a VAR decision go against them, you can imagine us biting them on the arse each time. And you see it each time. Ian Holloway. I don't really have an actual example for Ian Holloway, but just Ian Holloway as just a... I think that's all I need to say. QPR versus Norwich City, a normal game in the Championship. Well, on Twitter it was very different. Tweeted by Nick, to any QPR fans that saw my missus kiss some 6-foot 18-year-old lad tonight away at Norwich at half-time, any information would be heavily appreciated. This, of course, was trending on Twitter, and these are the fantastic tweets that I found regarding it. I don't know why him being a 6-foot 18-year-old was so important to add to it, but at least it narrows down the people that we're looking for. Watford. Well, Watford are known for sacking every single manager they have every 2 weeks, and it was only a matter of time where those managers bit them in the arse. This time is in the worst way imaginable. Watford, at the start of last season, signed a up-and-coming, fresh, young manager called Rob Edwards. Rob had a somewhat mediocre start to his time at Watford. Wasn't particularly disastrous, so they cut ties with him relatively early. Rob Edwards, of course, understandably, was looking for a job, and Luton Town came knocking. I think you know where this is going. So the idea of you sacking your manager prematurely to only have him go to your fierce rivals and get them promoted into the Premier League is just a peak championship story. Watford are still doing quite bad, by the way. Birmingham City and Cardiff City. I could genuinely be here all day. One of my favourite highlights that I remember from Birmingham City, Wayne Rooney debacle, when they were literally, I believe, 7th under John Eustace, and they sacked him for Wayne Rooney with previously poor experience at that level, and that was the most predictable calamity I think I've ever seen. One of my favourite moments of Vincent Tan, other than the fact he completely changed the club's identity from blue, from, you know, their nickname, the Bluebirds, completely changed the entire core identity of the club, the badge, everything, because he felt like the colour red was lucky. I don't think that went down well with the fan base. And one of my favourite highlights from Vincent Tan, there's many, but my favourite was when they were actually at a time in Premier League and they weren't doing that well. And he asked questions of their goalkeeper, not for conceding goals, but by not scoring them. Derby County. If you're a Derby County fan, then you know exactly where this is going. When they were in the Championship, a certain incident happened, which caused a lot of issues. Some Derby County players went on a night out. When they went to the local pub, all got absolutely rat-arsed, and players involving Tom Lawrence, Mason Bennett, drove home. Yes, they drove home. They were drunk driving, and in the process, Richard Keogh broke his leg in a car crash involving the cars. Richard Keogh was not only out for 12 to 14 months due to being involved in a car crash, due to this absolute calamity by Tom Lawrence and the gang. However, he was also sacked a month afterwards. I've got to bring back Leeds again. Leeds United had a era before Bielsa called the Salino era. This was their ownership, which was a complete mess. And again, that could be an entire video on itself. My favourite moment was a man called Brian McDermott, who was indeed the manager. 31st of January 2014, it was reported that Brian McDermott, that was manager, was sacked by the club. The following day, there was some speculation and some issues. One of them being that they were attempting to reinstate McDermott as the manager. This may sound kind of weird, and it is. As the following day, after a game against Huddersfield Town, he was reinstated again as the manager, as a miscommunication was involved. Salino said that he wanted to replace the couch at the time period, and not the coach. A miscommunication of words happened during this time period, and when he wanted to replace the couch in his office, they thought he meant coach, and he sacked the manager instead. A game of Sims gone incredibly wrong here. Do you know how stupid it must be to say that you want to replace your sofa, and indeed you sack your entire manager? I could be here for genuinely all day. So if you want a part 2 of the most ridiculous, stupid championship stories, I can give it to you again. However, I'm going to leave you with the story that you absolutely do know of,